So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast.
Hi, Jay Allen from My True North. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast, and in this episode we're talking about the game of business. Yep, you heard me. I called business a game. What are you going to do about it? There are far too many people that are in business, working harder than ever, doing longer hours for less reward, purely because they're playing the wrong game. And today I want to share with you the 7 magical numbers that you can learn to play and win in the game of business. Let me quickly explain. You may or may not have heard of the old expression, the game of business is business. It was said once by some American stakeholder all around being able to ensure that the rest of the stakeholders earned more this year in remuneration than they did in the previous year, that profits were up and stakeholders got paid out handsomely. And the majority of people, when they start out in business, seems to think that we've got to play to a similar set of rules. It's almost like a game of Monopoly. We all know how to play. We roll the die. We make sure that or try and avoid going to jail. We would like to be able to get our hotel on Mayfair and Park Lane and charge each other a fortune. We know that there's the opportunity of every now and again either landing on a community chest or a chance. And some of those might be positive and some of those might be negative. And the hope is that we've got more cash and more real estate than our opponent at the time of completion. The game. But what if I was to tell you that the super rich, the people whose money makes more money than me or you earn, have learned to play to a different set of rules? Instead of going clockwise or instead of rolling the die, they have a different set of numbers, a different rules to which they play, the same game as you and I, but have a predictable different outcome. I was once fortunate enough to sit in a room and have a conversation with a 79-year-old billionaire. His business does around 2 billion revenue a year. And he was the founder and CEO. Sat chatting to him about why, at 79 years old, with a business doing 2 billion revenue and a good, healthy, double-digit net profit margin, why he still worked 60, 70, sometimes 90 hours a week. At 79 years old, sadly he'd already got glaucoma in both eyes to the extent that he had an aide to be able to support him as he went round and got about. That his computer in his office, he's now got auditory systems to be able to tell him what's on the screen because he struggles to be able to see it clearly. And I had a conversation with him. I said, with the greatest of respects to you and in full admiration of all that you've achieved, when's enough? And he smiled and he said, Jay, do you play golf? I said, sir, I don't. It's not a game that I've taken up or enjoy. He says, but do you know people that do? I says, oh yes. I know the golfers. I know people who don't just play golf, they live golf. He says, yes, that's the people I'm talking about. He said, why do they play golf? And I says, well, to be honest with you, I could ask the same question. I understand it's because every time that they go out there, they've got their little sheet telling us as to which hole that they're on and the par of how many shots it should take to be able to get the ball in the hole. And they try and improve that by either getting it on that number or less than that number. And they use a set of clubs and that. And he went, oh yes, you're clearly a very good golfer. He says, and do they play in all weathers? All weathers, sir. It says they play all over the place. They take their clubs with them. They'll take their clubs with them on holiday. They'll hire clubs. You name it, they are avid golfers. He said, yes, Jay. He says, they're addicted to the game. I said, they are, sir. I know them well. He says, well, I'm addicted to playing my game, but my game is just sat in an office with a spreadsheet and 7 numbers. I went, sorry? He said, it's nothing to do with the business that we're in. He says, I could do this in any business that I walked into. He said, I, first of all, determine the 7 magical numbers, and then I spend all of my time influencing any one of those numbers. And the influencing is the business that we do. I said, sir, he says, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. Help me understand. He said, well, every business is made up a series of numbers. I've chosen that these are going to be my 7 essential, my magic numbers. And I've got a multitude of different strategies that I can implement at a moment's notice to influence any one of those numbers. And so when I turn up for work, I look at the numbers. And if the numbers aren't what I want them to be, or if I want to play the game, I implement a strategy to influence one of those numbers. And the joy I have of the large business that I now operate is that I can take risk, little bit or lots, to determine, can I influence the number from X to Y in a certain time period and make that number go up or down, but knowing that I can play the game, that if I want that number to, even if the number is to go down, if I want my profit margin to go down, that I can determine as to how much I want it to go down by, and then I can put a series of strategies in place and influence that profit margin and be right. And the game that I'm hooked on, the game that I'm addicted to, is being right. I went, sir, how much would you charge me to teach me the numbers? He said, why, Jay, if you'd like to play, I'll give them to you today. And so today's episode, if you've got a pen to hand, then I strongly advocate that you have it in your hand straight away, as I share with you the 7 magical numbers that influence everything. Ready? Cool. Let's begin. Do you measure the number of inquiries that you receive to your business? Are you measuring on an annual basis, a quarterly basis, a monthly basis, how many inquiries you receive? How many people land on a landing page? How many people move towards you on your website? How many people make an inquiry on a form or an email or a telephone conversation? How many inbound inquiries do you receive into your business? Great. Let's have that number as number 1. Do you also measure how many of those convert to become paying customers? Your conversion rate. Does it differ from one landing page to another? Does it improve if they've received the brochure as a physical brochure or a printed brochure? Is the conversion rate better if we phone them before the brochure or after the brochure? All of these are strategies and tactics to influence the number. But are you measuring how many convert to become customers? And do you measure it as an overall, as a total, or do you measure it per channel? This will give you your number of customers, the amount of people that have paid you a sum of money over a set period of time. Customers. Now, do you know the average first time spend of a customer? When they first purchase from you, are you monitoring their first purchase value? Because that will help you to predict potential lifetime value. So, are we understanding what do they buy? Do we then take a separate measure to what else do they buy? Do they upsell? Do they buy the same again? Do they downsell? Do they buy 2 of it? Do they buy lots of it? Do they buy it more frequently? Do they only buy it on special occasions? Are we looking at the single purchase compared to frequency and lifetime value of purchase to understand purchase progression? That's a key statistic. Now let's look internally and understand how much does it cost us to provide what it is that they're buying. What is our COGS, our cost of goods sold? What's the actual true cost of us delivering that to the customer? And could we influence that by either buying in bulk or buying from somewhere else, or having different mechanisms in place that reduce our overall cost of running the business? Are we being as cost effective as we possibly can in order to be able to reduce our COGS value? Now we can look at pricing and understand the margin, the difference between cost of goods sold, how much it costs us, and raw costs to be able to have that product or service available to us, and how much we sold it for. But the margin isn't just as simple of an addition of one to the other. It's not a case of, well, I want to make 20%, so I'll add 20% on top. It's also about saying, if I was to reduce it to 18%, would I double the amount of purchases that I receive that collectively creates more profitability? If I charge 3 times as much as everybody else, but I still only get 50% reduction in sales, will I automatically overtake the competitor by profit margin, even if it's a lower number of sales? It's about understanding pricing, not just margin. Margin is the difference between cost of goods sold and sales price. But pricing elasticity looks at, can I increase the price, reduce the amount sold, and still have a better profit margin? Or if I reduce the price and therefore have less profit margin per product or service, could I massively oversell this and therefore make more profit overall? And then finally, understanding net profit margin. Once everything's been completed, what are we left with, and how do we influence that figure? There's lots of variables in these 7 figures. But first of all, are you actually measuring them? And then subsequently, what are you doing to influence them? How many die are you rolling? Are you hoping for a 2 so we can buy a house on Pall Mall as opposed to trying to get round to and saving up for a hotel on Park Lane? It's all about the variables that allow us to be able to make the incremental improvements. And for that, you might need a qualified and accredited growth, scale and exit mentor. You see, over the last 10 years and through AdaZero methodology, we haven't just looked at a set of data and said, well, let's create a program around that. We've now studied well over 120,000 different businesses, over 35 different bits of data per business. We've got hundreds of thousands of data points to be able to reference and understand the continued variables to create a methodology. And the methodology is continually being updated based on the data that we have every single day to measure it against. Therefore, when it comes to inquiries and improving inquiry rates, we've not just got 1 or 2 different thoughts, we've got 21 different strategies that we can help you to implement just to influence your inquiry rate. 21 different things that we could help and support you to do, all of which can improve your inquiry rate. When it comes to conversion rate, we've got 17 different strategies to implement just to be able to look at improving your conversion rate. And how to be able to increase it, how to be able to do the upsell, the cross-sell, the downsell, and all of that influences customer values. When it comes to their spend and spend of their initial spend, We've got 34 different things that we can help and support you to be able to influence what they spend, how much they spend on their initial purchase. And we've got a further 13 different methods on how to be able to, or strategies on how to be able to do the upsell, the cross-sell, the downsell to increase their overall lifetime spend. When it comes to cost of goods sold, 17 different strategies that we can help support you to be able to influence the amount of money it costs you to run your business. And when it comes to margins and profit margins, 23 different pricing strategies, all worked through and all with data to support the outcome that influence your gross and net profit at the end of the day. Ultimately, we have 174 different strategies that we could help to implement and influence those 7 numbers. And as a result of which, we can happily and comfortably say that over the last 8 years, our clients have consistently seen a 26% net profit increase as a result of implementing the Adazero methodology as an average. We've seen some clients do 100% growth in less than 7 months. We've seen some clients do 250% growth within 3 years. The net profit average of our clients is 26% net profit increase as a result of implementing the 7 magical numbers and the 174 different strategies that we help people to be able to work through to be able to influence those 7 numbers. And it all originated from sat with a billionaire talking about golf. Get in touch if you'd like to chat further. God bless, take care. I'll see you next week.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Adazero podcast presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.